Hello and welcome back to MDG Media. This is round 3 front 9 MPO lead card coverage of the 2025 EDGC European Disc Golf Championships hosted in Sula, Norway. With pretty severe weather warnings on this potential fourth round. This may or may not be the final round of the tournament. At this point in time, we are not sure. Neither are the players. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Andrew Gum.
Super happy to be here. Yeah, as you mentioned, strange scenario with the crazy weather coming in here on the wild west coast of Norway. And so it's moving day, but we don't know yet if it's going to be the final round. Like you said, check out the merch. You're doing an amazing job with that stuff. Wayo apparel is so sick.
Kicking off our lead card, our current solo leader, Niklas Anttila, has put an incredible first 2 rounds together. We'll see if he can continue that into the third. But we mentioned it already, the wind is here, the weather is here, the conditions are much harder.
Yeah, Tamm, Team Estonia, Latitude 64, big gun, 12 down yesterday, tying the course record from THRU.
Dennis Augustsson, reigning defending European champion, sponsored by Innova, representing Sweden. Incredible putter of the disc, always in contention, it feels, at the EDGC tournaments.
Yeah, solid forehand and backhand game. We have Kristian Kuoksa playing really well from Oulu, Finland, prodigy disc player, Team Finland. Super happy to have him on the card. Big gun, just like Tamm too. Two of the furthest throwers in the game.
And that may serve them well here. Hole 1, we kick it off with this 131-meter par 3, slightly elevated tee box next to the clubhouse. We have OB lining the left and the right side to about half the way up the fairway. It narrows and it then bends softly to the left, where you have this tunnel corridor you want to fly through. This is a great starting hole. You can throw a backhand air shot, forehand air shot, backhand roller. You can throw a flex, you can throw a hyzer flip, you can throw an understable disc, an overstable disc. Do whatever you feel like doing. You want to get yourself up to the green and make a putt to get your round started. Fun hole.
Yeah, dealer's choice right off the bat. So cool. Nice clubhouse effect. Swedish fans. They're so enthusiastic. They're cheering on Dennis. There you see him. It's some tough weather, as we mentioned.
European Disc Golf Championship presented by Latitude 64. Lead card, moving day. First on tee from Kuopio and Team Finland, Niklas Anttila.
Niklas, our solo leader, for good reason here. So far, coming into this third round, is both bogey and OB free, an unprecedented feat to pull off on a course so ripe with danger.
Just amazing performances so far in the first 2 rounds. 1088 average event rating.
From THRU and the Team Estonia, Tamm.
Tamm coming off a 1094 rated career round yesterday. He was just on fire. Slinging a big forehand hyzer way high up in the sky. Crashing in on those guardian trees. Safe. Circle 2.
From Alingsås, Team Sweden, Dennis Augustsson.
That's the reigning European champ right there.
Great guy, a great athlete, great disc golfer, all the skills, and really seems to thrive in these high pressure situations. This is getting smashed down by the wind. He'll need the height to beat the fence right at the end, and just less than a half meter shy of inbounds. We'll have an early OB.
From Oulu, Team Finland, Kristian Kuoksa.
slightly butchered name, Kristian Kuoksa. But I love the introductions here, the eerie music and the dramatic style of intro. Hats off to a great announcer.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of opinions, both for and against this. Wow! Just spikes one in. Kristian, textbook execution of the forehand, even in the wind. This noise you hear, I've seen a lot of positive and negative feedback. It's definitely very polarizing. It sets the tone here on the T of 1. Some people like it. Some people find it a little off-putting, but I think it's a cool thing. It's unique to this tournament and feels very grand somehow.
Yeah.
Little spooky.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of neutral about it. I don't necessarily like.
That's the first time I've heard someone be neutral on it, but makes sense. Solid upshot by Dennis there, getting himself into the circle, looking to secure just a bogey after a very early OB.
Kind of like it, I guess. I certainly don't dislike it.
Niklas disliking that putt, though. Just shy on the height. Had a very nice width pace. We go to Albert from the fence. And he trickles one over and out the left side.
Very close to a long distance connection. There's a clean connection from Dennis. Not the start he was hoping for, but nice to get a good solid putt in there. First hole. Kuoksa's been playing so well. Really great to see. We haven't really seen him in contention at a big event lately, so it's nice that he's up here playing for the big one. European Championships, that's the top level. Hole 2, par 3, 80 meters or 262 feet. Pipe job down the gap here. Got this structure built on the left, the Holland wall to catch on the left side. Trees can kick you either way, OB, but it's got to be over the fence, so low ones are usually pretty okay. This is just kind of textbook, classic disc golf straight shot. Got to get through all these trees. Maybe probably best to land it short and slide it up if you want an easy birdie, a putt, but if you want to try to give it an ace run, that's certainly a possibility. Then you just got to have that comebacker if you miss it. But just pipe the gap, right?
Throw it straight, throw it about 70 meters, slide the remaining 5 to 10. Kristian, however, says, I'm not interested in your straight shot. I'm going to throw a pure hyzer. You have to get a little bit lucky to filter through these late trees, and he's done just that. It's a shot that will give you safe progress every time and pretty much always brings a bogey out of play, whereas a kick early outside of the fence on the right can bring trouble pretty quickly.
I'd say it's a pretty smart game plan if you got that skill set.
I think it's, obviously it's more of a gamble than the straight shot in terms of how far you get, but it definitely mitigates a lot of the risk of this hole on a shot, a hole that you certainly don't want to take a 4 on. 3 or a 2 is what most players would expect on this shorter par 3.
A couple pretty big misses on the left side. See if Dennis can sling a forehand through there. Is it a crow?
I don't know if that's a crow, but oh no.
Oh no. No, it's not too bad. He hit the gap clean, just faded out a little bit there. Opportunity for a big highlight putt. He's good for it.
Niklas dropping to the knee, opening up the width. Gets that one pretty low, but friendly ground play on that mulch. We go to Albert now. A very long look with the straddle as well, simply opting for the layup there. Quite an unreasonable expectation to make a putt at that distance with those gaps. Dennis, however, never shy. However, that one not connecting with the chains. We go to Niklas for the par.
Important here, putt to keep the bogey-free round or event going. Like you said, pretty hard to imagine being bogey-free on a course like this through 2 full rounds and now 2 more holes on top of that.
really insane. It's difficult to overstate just how crazy that is to pull off. And today's conditions, it's tough to see on this first and second hole, but you hear it, you see it a little bit. The wind is absolutely ripping and incredibly gusty. It comes and goes, it changes directions, it's in your head. And even if you see it not only from the trees and the branches here, but you see it in the players' behavior, their decision making, there's a little bit of hesitancy and almost a reluctance of just throwing their normal shot. They have to think a little bit harder. They'll move on to hole 3 here. A 127-meter par 3 straight shot. Most likely, players will be throwing a soft flex or hyzer flip. You have hazard lining the left side if you crash out too early. The right side doesn't have any OB or hazard, but is very thick. And if you go too far to the right, you're often extremely obstructed. The most common and best play is to come up 5 to 10 meters short of the basket to open up this straight gap as you see the drone flies. Pin high left or right will leave you with a more difficult putt. We see Kristian up first.
Shanked it real bad yesterday. This is better, but hits that first main guardian tree in the fairway and goes a little bit left, but pretty far out of birdie range. Should be able to get up and down, hopefully. Niklas, nice and straight. Catches that beech tree that guards the FPO pin. About like a little bit more than halfway. Well, quite a bit more than halfway, I suppose, but still pretty far out of birdie range unless you do something real special, which he's quite akin to.
That disc there looking like an Albert Tamm Ballista Pro, quite an overstable run of those. That was fading out towards the hazard. I think fortunate to catch that tree for the flight that we saw. Dennis flexing it down the middle. Also slowed down. Those Guardians doing their work here.
Yeah, catching both of them, but getting through. Just slowed it down a fair bit. He's going to have, what, about 30 meters or so at least?
Kristian up first. This is about 75 or 80 meters from this spot. That's not the result he would like to try and secure the par. Has gone birdie-birdie the first 2 holes.
Very good start, especially in these conditions. We did touch upon it. Big storm came in, as was predicted.
And I think this 3rd round on Saturday, just a precursor for what we may or may not see on Sunday. A little bit of a taste of what's to come for the players. Niklas floats it up there. Smooth. We saw that elevator from the additional wind present on the green, up and down on his disc. We go to Dennis. He's a little bit closer than I thought and looked healthy.
Yeah, he was, yeah. He gave it a real good bid. Top of the cage. Right on line. Walks up for a huge par save.
Wow, that's pretty important in terms of his momentum. Huge difference to go 2 down into hole 4 compared to 1 down, 2 birdies and a bogey. Just mentally as well, keeps the momentum on his side.
Yeah, that was a fabulous putt. He had a few trees in his way. Just drilled it. Albert gets his par. Fairly stress-free. Clean up for Dennis. As well as Niklas.
As we see, yeah, absolutely. No damage done, but also no birdies found by our lead card.
Yeah, not the toughest hole on the course, so you kind of want to get the birdie, but it doesn't always go your way. Who's out there doing work?
The discovery of electricity. The first flight. Democracy. Splitting the atom. Computers. Modern medicine. Space travel. And, of course, the Royal Line from Latitude 64.
Yep, moving on. Hole 4, par 4, 170 meters, 558 feet. You got to throw it down the pipe here. You got the OB on the left side, including those structures from the football field. You got the Stakes and line here on the OB right side. Quite a few trees to deal with. First ones that really get in your way are these. You got to kind of pick a side. And then when you get up to the green, it's quite clustered. OB as well, kind of tightens in there on the left side. Basket perched very precariously right there on the water's edge. Beautiful mountain landscape behind. Yeah, what do you think of this one?
Lovely par 4. It's really just about placement more than anything. You can throw, in theory, like 50 meters off the tee and still be in place for birdie, but of course the more you bite off, the less you bring in the danger of the green. And for a few of these players, Kristian and Albert in particular, they can throw far enough just to have a jump putt with a good drive up into the green. We saw that one absolutely zooming, slowed down by the tree, but well in position. And I think this is one of the few holes of the day that had a tailwind in place that will give two main effects to the disc. It will act slightly more stable and fade earlier than expected, which we saw from Niklas's, and it will also give a touch more distance, assuming you can get that full flight that we saw from Kristian.
Spot on. Yeah, not the longest par 4. And with these guys' power, it's pretty exciting to see how far up there they get.
Albert was very conservative. We saw him play over the fence line on the left in previous rounds, this time just right up the middle. Dennis as well. I like the height there just to mitigate the effects of the wind. Keeping something overstable, kind of low to the ground, will prevent the wind from beating you up too much.
Yeah, Dennis has sort of done that all 3 rounds. It's been a little bit too low, hasn't gotten a ton of distance, but I guess that could be the game plan. Maybe he's trying to just, put himself in position for a solid longer upshot than most of the other players in the field. Niklas does pretty well there. Get some nice ground play after it catches that tree.
That was a harder shot than he made it look like. Really fantastic execution on the forehand flex.
He does that often. Makes hard shots look easy.
That's true. Probably his
thing,
specialty, right?
Yeah. His superpower, right?
Dennis getting caught up on those Guardians will be faced with a death putt directly towards the water from circle 2.
Yeah, pretty good sized gallery today, especially considering that we're under a weather advisory. So, shout out to all those brave souls that came out to watch disc golf at a very high level despite the tough conditions.
Some interesting decision making from Albert there. Perhaps a misrelease on the putt, but rather than opting for a full throw, catches some branches along the way. Well done by Kristian. This is Albert's 3rd now, and as almost everyone would from circle 2 on this green, lays it up under the basket.
It's impressive.
The rare Dennis layup. Hole 4, one of the few holes that will do that. You'll get to see that on a rare occasion. Niklas with a fantastic approach, had the shortest drive of the group, but is able to secure that birdie. His first of the round now, looking at 1 under, has given himself a healthy lead in that solo first position, but with the amount of players in the field behind him, he's going to need to shoot another strong round to keep that gap alive.
Kuoksa 3 for 4. Yeah.
He's out here. He's doing it. He's looking fantastic this weekend. We see here hole 5, a 120-meter par 3 over the water the entire way. For a lot of players, it's going to be just a big right-handed backhand hyzer. For Dennis, potentially a flex along the left side. What is important is that you cross inbounds and land hopefully either near the bottom of this hill in this small trench or up on the plateau. You often see someone who crashes into the sloped part of this green potentially roll and get a lot more action than they're trying to find. So it's nice to try and really hit one of the 2 flat areas if possible. But in this wind, I think getting it inbounds is enough to leave you happy with the drive. You see Kristian hyzer flip up the middle, top flat side. Pretty much perfect execution.
That was great. 3.68 average today. Quite a testament to the conditions. Very demanding. I feel like the wind was even quite a bit stronger on the FPO round in the morning.
this hole in particular was brutal for the FPO. It calmed down a bit in the afternoon, as the wind normally does.
But still pretty gusty.
Yeah, certainly.
This guy's handling it pretty well, though.
Albert's shot came out really nice, but the wind just smashed it down. You saw the entire flight just getting hit down, dropping in a very unexpected and frankly weird fashion there. But that is the wind we see similarly from Dennis. He gets the lift and then the drop. And I like his use of the flex play there to prioritize inbounds. If he finds that late fade, he gets a bit closer to the basket, but does everything he needs to do to, at a minimum, have a long look for birdie.
Long walk to 6. But we're not quite there yet. We got to finish up this one.
Albert up first. The drop zone on this hole, I believe, is optional. Really only taken if you don't cross inbounds at all. Exactly. Albert, given the benefit there of saying he crossed inbounds, is able to take that.
Scoops out left side. Looked pretty good. Just a little bit wide. Not punished too hard. Deep breath. Not the start Dennis was looking for. Still over par. It's been really nice to have him and Niklas on the card every round so far. Those are your European champions in the last 2 iterations.
Both Dennis and Albert yet to find their first birdies here in these tricky conditions. Niklas finding his second here on hole 5, and Kristian his 4th. 4 down through the first 5. Pretty incredible. We'll see if he can maintain that pace. Feels almost unsustainable at times. Let's check in here.
For the possible situation tomorrow.
Oh, the weather is playing a little hide and seek with us here, or like some tricks here in Norwegian fjords. So it's really not easy to predict. Right now it was supposed to be raining, and as you can see, the wind shut quite a bit as well. So that's a good news, but it's still like the weather forecast is pretty bad for tomorrow, especially for the morning. So after the MPO round is concluded today, we'll have to sit down and look at it, evaluate the situation, and see what options we have. There are several, but hopefully we'll be able to keep the schedule and wait for the morning for another update and see how the situation is. But also the likely scenario could be to cut a little deeper and maybe have a later start. And like one of the later options is also to maybe cut even more and have a shotgun start if the weather is too bad. But we will see.
Yeah, big thanks to Montage Veril for that update, explanation. It's hard to tell, like you said, it's just ever changing, not just the conditions themselves, but the forecast as well. And here's that next one. We got the par 4 way uphill. Got the drop zone restroom there. Quite a bit uphill. Mando on the right. You got to beat that. There's this shelf on the left. That's kind of the main landing zone. If you got a ton of power, you can get a little bit further up here. But yeah, we do have 2 big guns on the card, so we might see someone way up there. But with the wind, this is a pretty tough hole, considering that it's a pretty well guarded green here at the end, especially with the drop off. You want to get your approach as close as possible and not have too scary of a putt.
Another very technical par 4 on paper with the distance, super attackable, but in reality requiring some clean golf. The next generation present here on the course. You see a lot of really young kids, families, youth, the under 18s, all of it here in the galleries, supporting, even volunteering as spotters. It's great to see the culture in Norway of just family-oriented disc golf enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Always a little bit slippery off this tee. Niklas was alluding to.
There was a pretty aggressive right to left wind for these players coming off the water. It's difficult to feel that on the tee pad as you're inside the trees, but once your disc breaks out towards that landing zone, it's immediately hit with some huge gusts. Albert going really high, trying to just smush this one, and that right to left, if you keep it on hyzer for the right-handed player, it will get pushed left. If you turn it over, it's going to get crushed down to the right. Managing that angle and that stability is so difficult. We will see Niklas have to scramble now. We go, however, to Albert first, had his drive overturned, but in a decent spot with his forehand power, I think, could manufacture some sort of long look.
Catches some stuff, though, and rolls back into the middle of the fairway. Got a fair bit of work left to do. Not really the putt you want to run, especially on a windy day like this. Check this out.
Boom. The bazooka strikes again. Niklas, if you believe that's him, we'll trust the graphic.
Yeah, he's deep in there. Tries to just jump putt out. Doesn't get too far. But at least he's in the open. It's going to take a lot of good work, though, to get that par save. Keep that clean sheet. Not going to be easy.
But his position here is where you would ideally have your first drive land. So it's a common shot that he would have practiced. That upshot there doesn't enter the bowl of the green quite. He'll be left with a death putt for the par. Kristian.
He's on fire. Let's just say it. I mean, this is incredible. That's going to be to go 5 down through 6 with the rest of the field struggling in the wind. He's just shredding it up. Very, very impressive stuff from him.
Albert taking a stab at this very dangerous basket, may pay the price, left with a long comebacker up the hill. Another layup from Dennis, indicative of maybe his feeling in the wind, understanding the risks and where he's at in the tournament. Yeah. Albert, I mean, this can just keep happening over and over, if I'm being honest, with the wind lifting and pushing discs. The drop-off right there, at some point, he's either going to have to make it or concede a layup. We go, however, to Niklas.
Look at that.
An amazing putt to continue the bogey-free streak.
Yeah, he stood over that one for a while and really concentrated. There was some children up on a balcony making a ton of noise. I'm not sure if that was anything or if he was just trying to really make sure he got the right wind read and really had a good feel for it. But really nice to see him just drill that in the heart.
Funny note, there was also an ice cream truck running up and down the main road next to these sets of holes. Super loud jingle. Dun, da, da, dun, dun, dun. All the players hearing it. They're on the greens. It's ripping wind. It's stressful. It was really almost a lighthearted juxtaposition, let's say, of the stress of this round and then that sort of funny distraction.
OTD is very specific on how they list the disc because they want you to like the disc.
Virtually in your hand tells you what the disc is going to feel like, how heavy it's going to be. It's everything you want to know before it shows up to your house.
Not just marketing.
It's only the best.
The players continue on to hole 7, an uphill 88-meter par 3 tunnel shot. You have this initial gap to hit where you then manage both the width and the low ceiling as well as the rising floor. Very difficult to go long of this basket. The most common result of a good throw is to hit the ground somewhere right about here and then slide your way on up to the wall and be left with a short putt. You can get a pretty nasty kick. The right side is much more open in terms of scramble potential than the left. So if you do kick a tree, you'd rather go to the right. Ideally, though, you can hit the gap, keep it low, keep it controlled. Slight understability is most common here. Hyzer release up to flat. Kristian just gets that one out early from the hand. And he may or may not be in trouble. It had a lot of pace, may have filtered through. This looks textbook from Niklas.
Yeah, pipe job. It does hit a root. Doesn't get as much forward progress as you might expect, but it's about 7 meters there. Should be okay. Yeah, like you said, the play is to kind of land it short, let it slide up there. The other option is to just ace it like Tamm kind of did today.
That's a good move. I mean, smart.
Yeah, why not? So I mean, yeah, what an ace. You know, it's pretty impressive to kind of test that ceiling to give it all the height. I guess I didn't hear the story if it was a skip or a straight shot, but pretty sick ace. check out that merch, guys. Come on, let's do it. Head on over to mdgmedia.eu/shop, and Wayo apparel is the best gear in the business. Like, super comfortable, you know, really good quality, lots of cool designs. Can they be customized?
Always.
That is great. Come on, get yourself some cool gear.
Dennis giving that a bit up the hill, that backstop, giving you more flexibility in the decision making if you choose to run it or lay it up. Albert as well. He's had a tough round so far, has not yet connected with the birdies here, has taken over par on the last 2 holes.
Yeah, what a difference a day makes. I mean, he was, you know, just killing it yesterday. He had like, what was it, 8 birdies in a row on the front 9. Now he's struggling to get a single one. Much tougher conditions, clearly, but yeah, not really his day so far. Let's see if he can turn things around as we move forward.
Having said that, still tied 4th. He's up there in the mix, certainly in position to push for that podium still. Is just going to need to find the feeling, get a little bit comfortable, settle into his round.
Yeah, Dennis good for the comebacker after skipping off the top on the way up there. Solid shooting still, but, you know, kind of a slow round for him as well. Kuoksa, though, on fire. Niklas, pretty steady going, you know, always doing his thing. Hole 8, par 4, 160 meters, 525 feet. Another relatively short par 4, but pretty tricky shape. Fish hook, lots of OB. Mando here on the right. And way uphill, quite technical, especially at the end on the approach. You got to try to go up, you know, wide around, move it left to right to get to the green. Or there is that kind of cheat code up the middle between those trees, but that comes with its own risk as well. Averaging quite there around par, so one of the holes that's least affected by the wind, I guess. It's fairly sheltered on this part of the property. Not sure if it's the forest or just the way the land is shaped, but this is the part where I was feeling the wind the least out there today.
Good point there. Niklas up first. He's going to need this to sit down.
It skips out of bounds, curls back in, living on the edge.
And from this angle, those stakes are deceptive. There's one on the right. There's a little inlet towards the fence that we can't see from that angle. That is why he's in bounds.
That's true.
Just barely. Kristian here has a booming forehand on this hole. Pushes that high flex, but this one is going to fight with that Mando. And has certainly missed it. That was just punching straight through the Mando plane.
Yeah.
I mentioned the flex, that was a pure hyzer. His intended line there gets a lot more leftwards movement. We hope to see the same from Dennis, but perhaps that wind coming into play, it's not as severe here as other holes, but both of those shots not getting the flight, I think, expected from those players.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a rules clarification from THRU on the ground. That shot we saw there from Kristian, it went OB and then missed the Mando. But anytime you enter the restricted airspace on a Mando miss, that's the rule that overrides, and so he headed to the drop zone.
I think he'd rather take that drop zone than the OB line. So that's, in fact, to his benefit in this situation. And
Indeed.
An interesting note, Andy. I didn't quite know that behavior, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But solid scramble from Kristian. He's up there in the circle. Niklas, although taking on a lot of risk close to the OB, is in an ideal position in terms of access to the green, playing it high and wide, spikes it in. I think Niklas has played this hole exactly as the designer intended. Really well done.
Nice little chip up approach there. Making this hole look too easy.
Dennis just opening up his angle, opts for the inside line on the forehand. Does leave himself with about 4 or 5 meters up the hill. Kristian, great par save considering the Mando miss.
Yeah, really nice to get up and down from the drop zone there.
I'm sure he's thanking Matej. Look at these two absolute legends of the sport and of MDG.
Doing so much work. Really great to have them on the team. And it's nice to see them out there on the course enjoying this beautiful property.
And Albert, that putt there, netting him another par.
That's right. Yeah, he was OB.
Hole 9 here, this par 4, leaning towards the longer side for this course, but also just as technical as some of the previous par 4s. This 206 meter starts with an initial tunnel shot. You want to throw something that goes straight and ends pretty strongly to the left, of course, because of this Mando tree forcing you down the tunnel, but also you can sort of crash the hill and the rocks on the left, and your disc will naturally filter back to the middle. You're then left with this look through this winding fairway, managing both this left to right slope, slightly uphill, and the many trees in the way. It is a very demanding second shot, even from a perfect position off the tee to try and access this green, where you are then also, of course, left with a little bit of wall to complicate things if you go long or to the right. This is just a really beautiful par 4 that requires complete and utter control throughout the entire flight of the disc on both shots. For that reason, a very difficult birdie.
Very demanding hole, absolutely. Nico's putting together a great round here. It seemed like a slow start for him, you know, missing some of those holes that he'd normally get, pretty high percentage, but 4 out of the last 5, that'll help jumpstart you and boost you, get it going in the right direction. And that, you know, huge par save was helpful. Still clean. That's pretty hard to believe. At this point, we're, you know,
more than halfway through a super tough tournament.
Yeah, exactly. 40 plus holes. Not a single bogey.
Dennis going with the overstable driver forehand there. Pushes to the left. That is what you need to do and will open up his angle nicely. Albert able to just crush on the forehand, but that one flipped up really quick and over into the left tree line. Birdie is completely out of play for Albert now with that minor mistake. Will have to just get himself around the Mando on the second and then have probably something like 80 or 90 meters into the green.
Big forehand coming from Dennis. Looked like it clipped that tree a little bit, changed the trajectory, put it like a little bit farther on the left than he would have hoped for. Not sure exactly where it finished, but Niklas able to stretch out and throw a nice forehand shot. It's going to get him all the way up there, pin high. Kind of a long putt, especially in the wind, but yeah, he's got great skills and range on the green. Everywhere on the course, really, to be honest.
Kristian committing the body to that shot, really pushed it through with the legs, leaned with the upper body, catches a tree along the way, and Albert forced to just throw this touchy roller. Does get him out into the open, but moving so much to that side of the fairway will pinch his angle. You see what he's left with now. Simple chip forehand hyzer into the green. Leaves himself about circle's edge short. And I believe that's a bogey putt. We'll check in on that in a moment. Right now we see Dennis trying to navigate his way into the green. Smashes the wall. Pretty solid way to get yourself close and sit it down.
Nice forehand up. Niklas going on a knee here. He's super good at this. Not able to connect on this one, but it's right there close for the easy par. Can't be too mad about that. On a windy day, on a very difficult hole. Oh no. Over the top. And this is gonna be a birdie free front 9 from Albert after going 8 down yesterday on the same stretch of holes. What do you think about that?
It speaks a lot to the conditions today. It speaks to the mindset of these players, potentially the pressure of that final round feeling, receiving the news right before the round that this could be it. I think for a guy who can be right up there and is still right up there given this front nine, the weight of that position potentially being felt by him.
That's very, very good observation. Could definitely play with your head, you know, not knowing what you're actually playing for or how many more opportunities you're going to get, you know, how hard you got to push. It can really disturb the game plan, you know, and just make you kind of unsure about what you're actually doing out there, what it means.
And as we take a look at the scores, Niklas continuing to maintain his lead, 7 strokes ahead of Kristian in second place, with the field directly behind them. Both Dennis and Albert having a tough time here on our lead card, but Chase playing pretty well considering, and it's still a very tight battle from 3rd to like 20th, honestly.
Yeah, Dennis didn't have a birdie either. When was the last time you saw him go through 9 holes without a birdie?
It's a rare occasion.
Tough weather we're seeing out there.
A mean day, but an exciting round 3 so far. Make sure to stay tuned. Join us on the back 9. Both Andy and I will see you there. We appreciate your support immensely. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. Check out the website. Have a great afternoon, evening. Catch you soon.
Thank you so much for all your support. Appreciate it.